Hi, welcome to NUYU Voices Emerge podcast, and we are out here enjoying this beautiful weather on today. I'm telling you, it is amazing. It feels good. As you all know, I'm not one for the heat, but here we go. But today it's nice and cool. But today I am excited to introduce to you my oldest brother. Wave, Fred. This is my oldest brother. As you know, I've talked about my three brothers. We grew up in Yonkers, and that's a whole story for another top day. But I am here with my oldest brother, Fred Douglas Gaines Jr. He's named after our dad. Also, I'm here with my husband, Kevin Harris. And we're going to talk to you today about a topic I call the Undeclared War Zone. And my brother did 30 plus years in a correction facility as a correction officer. My husband did 4 years or so. And I found that as I researched about it, that they are the unsung heroes. They just celebrated May 5th. It was a full week of an appreciation for correction officers. And I did a little bit of fun facts and research on it. And did you know that the Egyptians back in 2040 BC were the first ones to do an organized jail system? Did you guys know that?
No, did not at all.
In the 1800s, as I was researching about it, there was a territory called Colorado. It's Colorado Territory Prison, where they only started out with 1 warden and 6 guards, and really what they were called were turnkeys.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to bring a spotlight to the correction officers because, again, like I said, I think they're the unsung heroes. At any given time, if the inmates decided to rise up, that could be stressful.
Yes.
It can be very stressful.
Yes, it can.
And so there's a thing where they are constantly in a hyper-vigilant state, a fight or flight, because at any given time, it's a usual routine, but if somebody decides to fight, unfortunately suicides, things like that, these gentlemen had to go in there and deal with that. And that weighs a lot on the mind. In my research, I found that correction officers deal with PTSD. 34% of them deal with PTSD, and they parallel their PTSD, guess what, with that of combat veterans.
Mm.
So that's why on today,
Wow.
I'm calling this the Undeclared War Zone. So I just wanted to talk to them a little bit about how it was the day-to-day. I know you can't give me stories, and we don't want that because, we don't want the listeners, some people may not be ready to hear some of those things that you may have witnessed. But talk to me. How was it to go in and you're on lockdown just like everybody else?
Well, first, when I first got there, I was very young. I was in my late 20s. And every correctional facility is different. I worked in New York State. I worked in the county correctional facility. And I was in the academy only 2 weeks when I got there. And they sent us right from the academy straight to the buildings. Right? And when I got there, I was in for a rude awakening. Because it's not like what you see on TV.
Right.
TV dramatizes a lot of stuff that correctional officers have to go to. When I got there, the first day I got there was an incident between 2 inmates. I had to run and respond. And it let me realize then that, wow, I'm in a war zone. Wow. I'm in a war zone. Because we went there when I started there. This was in the 80s. The crack was epidemic. It was a big epidemic, and they had people from all professions. And when I went to this so-called incident, I remember a sergeant was there, and he just gave us the directions and what to do. But it was interesting. I can tell you that it was something that I was expecting to see, but when I got there, what I didn't want to see, I didn't. It was like traumatic.
Yeah.
It was very traumatic, to see a human being in that state. So, yeah. And like you said, we the unsung heroes. Everybody recognizes police officers, parole officers, probation, everybody else. But when men and women get incarcerated, we have to deal with their emotions,
Yes.
We have to deal with their not only their emotion, but we have to deal with some of the things that they're going through physically.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of diseases inside a correctional facility.
They don't get the health care.
They get health care, but we're exposed to all sorts of diseases.
It's concentrated.
It's concentrated there. We get hepatitis, tuberculosis, scabies, all the diseases there. And nobody realizes what we go through. And we got to come home and expose our families to this.
Now, would you say the health care is it at, would you consider the health care that they receive there the same that you would receive out here?
Let me jump in right there. When I first got started in 1998 in the Memphis, Tennessee area, I was fortunate enough to work on the medical floor. And I got an opportunity to see some things, as Fred said, that most people shouldn't see. I didn't realize how mental health was a factor in the corrections and in the prison facility. And it led me to understand a little bit more about some things. And so we're outside, as we said. I'm sorry. But anyway, it gave me some clarity and appreciated how our medical facility outside the facility is important. Because inside the facility, they don't get the proper care. They don't get the proper care like they should, because, to be quite honest with you, they're just another number. And unfortunately, because you're just another number, you don't get a PCP like we would get. Right? And so what I saw people that was neglected from their medicine and different things like that, and it caused them to act out.
Yes.
And to be out of where you think, we're thinking rational, but without that prescription, they're not thinking at all.
Right.
And so now a corrections officer have to handle with care that individual that's not in the right state of mind. Mm-hmm. And that's what I saw. Then I also saw different things, and when it comes to the medical floor, was the first time I saw a patient with full-blown AIDS.
Mm. Yes.
I'm going to be totally honest with you guys, and we're in 2024. I didn't want to touch the person.
I understand.
I didn't want to touch him because it was so new. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about Magic Johnson. You're talking about Eazy-E, different people. We wasn't familiar with AIDS,
right.
And so I didn't know. I respected him, and I did what I had to do, but it was difficult.
Yes.
Because I knew you can't catch it by touching,
right.
But it was just so new to me. I didn't know. I didn't want to bring it to my wife. I just had my son. I mean, it was just. There's no words to describe how he was dealing with that. And I would talk. He was in my pod, my section where I worked at, and he dealt with it well. But it was just I didn't deal with it well. I just didn't know how to deal with it.
Yes.
And it's just it's tough because again, your compassion goes out, but then you have to yet do a job.
That's right.
So I think that was tough for me. I was like I said, I was on the second floor. It was tough, but it gave me an appreciation for the things that we take for granted.
Yes, we do.
As people that are not incarcerated or have never been incarcerated,
right.
You see it in a different way, and when you leave, you appreciate it differently. In my opinion.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And to piggyback, like you said, things that we take for granted, you'll have altercations between people who's incarcerated over newspapers.
Yes.
Over telephones, over a conversation. I could have a conversation with someone, and then all of a sudden this individual interrupts the conversation, and now this individual is interrupting the conversation and taking away from my attention from the person I'm talking to, and that can lead into some type of altercation.
That is true.
And one of the things that I learned was, to be respectful, no matter what their charges were.
For sure.
I didn't ask them what their charges were. I could care less what their charges was. My job was to take care of the institution. It was called custody, care, and control.
Right.
You understand? So I took care of that, and I'm fortunate. I gotta admit, I'm fortunate because I had such a great rapport and respect amongst the people that was incarcerated,
Yeah.
you know. And I was in a county facility which had a penitentiary division, a jail division, and a women's division. And the difference between a penitentiary division is that most of the people incarcerated are sentenced to the county time. They could do it up to a year. In the jail division, the people were facing serious crimes, and their future was undetermined at the point because they were, you know, from murder all the way down to
back
you know,
and forth to court.
back and forth to court. And you know, when I went to the penitentiary first 4 years, and the last 28 years I spent in the jail, and I spent in a block that had some very, very heavy hitters with charges, and I had to be there with them.
I know the stress because it, as I said in my research, it was characterized that, well, not characterized, it was stated that the suicide rate for correction officers is higher than that of police officers.
I can see that.
So, like you just mentioned, being with, you know, heavy hitters with heavy charges, lifers. I think that I've heard you once say,
Yeah, I was in there with guys who was facing. Most of the guys that I worked with were murderers, and they were very respectful. As long as you didn't cross that sand. You see, what people don't understand about correction officers is this. It's called 3 R's. Reputation, respect, and retaliation. If you had a reputation of being respectful as an officer, then they would not retaliate against you. And if you came into and if somebody came into a block and disrupted that flow, they would tell you, listen, this officer, when I was working, where I worked at in New York, in the county facility, they said, this officer is the A officer. He's here every day. He doesn't bother us. You don't bother him.
Right.
Because if you disrupt this, you're going to have to go.
Well, they're accustomed to that routine.
They're accustomed to the routine.
And as you've retired, and even when you left, there were times that you actually, you know, when we lived in Memphis, we saw some of the inmates that may have been out, and they always treated them. They were like, "We appreciate you, Officer Harris, you know, for what you did." And then I had the pleasure to listen to a phone call from several of the inmates that you were in charge of. So that says something about, you know, your character.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
that how you treated them. You treated them like human beings.
Yes.
Human beings. Even though they're incarcerated and they're behind bars, they were treated as human beings, and everybody deserves that right.
But,
You know.
but what I like what Fred said is to anybody out there looking that's actually currently doing this job. First of all, we commend you. But what Fred was saying is key. Take what we're saying as experience, and understand respect is the key.
Respect, yes.
Don't focus too much on the charge. Just respect the person. I know for a fact that's what got me through those years, is that no matter what they said to me, I didn't come out of character to them.
That's right.
And as I began to do that, they began to understand how I operate, and we work together.
That's right.
Because my goal
Amen.
was not to punish them. I'm not the judge, jury, or executioner.
Exactly.
I'm
Right.
just a person here to make sure you get the things you need,
Right.
that you're safe and secure, and that you're prepared to go to court like you're supposed to when you're supposed to.
Exactly.
I was not here to punish anybody. I never subscribed to that type of corrections officer's procedure. I just made sure I respected them in their place, and I saw them out, because again, they're short termers, they're people that are long term. I used to see them all the time. I never had a problem, you know. And so you have to remember those things. And I know you're probably saying, well, you don't know what it's like where I am. Corrections is the same across the board.
Across the board.
It's across the board.
Across the board.
You can be a corrections officer anywhere from Supermax down in Colorado and Texas to a small town in Kentucky. It does not matter if you maintain respect
right.
and treat people like you want to be treated.
right.
Because again, they're human beings, and we're not here to punish them. You know, for me, the fear factor, I don't know about Fred, but I didn't understand corrections because when I first took the job, I took the job because my position had closed in another department. So I jumped into it feet first, not knowing. But what my reality came in, Fred, is when they slammed the door behind me.
Yeah, yes.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yes, yes.
And I was like,
Yes.
oh, I'm okay. I'm
Yes.
locked up too.
Yes,
you
you
know
are.
what I'm saying? And
Yes,
so
you are.
fight or flight started right then.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, now the second part is I didn't realize the men and women that were incarcerated, I was in a female facility too,
Right.
that they walk around.
Yes, they do.
They walk around and clean and do things.
They do
and
everything.
clean. They do everything.
Right.
So I wasn't accustomed to inmates walking around. So I was like, I'm not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. You know what I'm saying? So I was I was culture shocked because I never knew
right.
anything about it because I came from a culinary background.
Right.
I didn't know anything about the situation. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this work. But I was just astonished as to how many people were walking around that worked and then they go back to their cell.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, that was a total shock for me. I just thought everybody was locked up. Honestly, I just thought and we was called turnkeys because we rolled doors.
Right.
So when you said that, they where I worked at still have the old doors where you got to pull the pins down.
Oh yes, yes.
I still know I could go do that job right now.
Yes.
I know how to pull the pins, roll the door, move. It's just I won't get out of my head.
No.
Wow. I learned it.
And
I'm gonna tell you one more thing, Fred. And he didn't know this either. You didn't know this. An inmate taught me how to roll doors.
That's right. That's right.
They taught me how to roll doors.
He's absolutely right.
The officer, when I came on board, was not helpful to me. I don't know why. They did not help me at all. But the inmates, the men that were incarcerated, because I had some OG. I was fortunate enough to have OGs in my part, the older, the repeat offenders, I call them that.
Mm-hmm.
They said, no, Harris, do this, and do this. And they taught me how to roll the doors because they didn't want the person on the side that's a psychopath coming out at the wrong time. So they helped me to not have a fight. Because if you roll the wrong door with two people that don't like each other on the same side, on different sides, it's a fight coming.
It's a fight coming, yes.
So they told me, no, you rolling the wrong door because this dude is going to fight this guy.
Wow.
They taught I'm telling you, they taught me how to be an officer. The older inmates that were been going to jail since they was kids, they know the facility backwards and forwards. And they was a blessing to me. They helped me figure it out. They really did. You know, and I'm grateful for that.
And that's true because when I got there, we had similar systems than you had because the penitentiary was built in the early 1900s. It was a World War I prison.
Wow. Okay.
Actually, it was a Civil War prison, and they just made it they updated it, and we had the rollers, and we had to go down and do the deadlock bolts and all that. And you're right, it was an old inmate, right, that told me, he said, "Hey, rookie, that key don't open that door. This key opens the door." And he told me, and I was like, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." He called the number out on the keys because back then it's a company. It was the only company. It was called Folge Adams.
Yeah.
Right, and he said, "That key right there, open the door." I put the key in, open the door, and I said, "Oh, thank you." Wow. And that's when he said to me, "You know what, rookie, you're gonna be all right, man." He said, "You stay here, man, long enough, you're gonna be an all right officer because you know how to listen to people." You know what I'm saying? And like Kevin said earlier in the conversation, I wasn't there to judge anybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And the fact that, and I'm gonna say this, the fact that we had relatives that were actually in the facility that I was there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That you can't tell people that they're relatives because they're going to ship them to another facility. Basically would be Rikers Island. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
That they would go to because I was in the county, right?
Okay.
So, that, luxury of having those relatives there plus having the rapport that I had with them actually helped me too. And they like my sister said, I was down here last year and I got a FaceTime and everybody, about 20 minutes worth of people call me, "Hey G, how you doing?" This and this and this. Yes. And like you said, Kevin, my biggest dilemma when I was working in correction wasn't the inmates.
No.
It was the paying people that wore the same uniform that I wore. It was my fellow officers.
Yes.
It was my supervisors. And people may get upset by me saying this, but it was them that gave me the biggest headache and the biggest stress. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Any altercation that I got into with a I don't call them inmates, with a former resident,
right? Yeah.
It's because somebody else did something or said something to irritate that individual.
To provoke them.
And the worst thing you can do is irritate a man or a woman who only has their pride.
Wow.
That's well said, man. That's on point. That's on point, Fred. That's on point. That's real. Yeah, because you strip down everything from a person. You know, you can imagine. People don't understand. I'm just going to go, not gory or anything, but can you imagine your privacy being surrendered? You all have to use the bathroom in front of someone. You share a cell. See, we don't, until you've been in that situation, people don't understand how you've lost everything. They tell you when to get up, they tell you when to go to sleep, they tell you when to eat, when to use the phone, when to watch TV, and you don't have any privacy to go to the bathroom.
Nope.
That is the absolute worst thing a person can, where someone is sitting there watching you go to the bathroom. See, people don't get that because they just say, oh, they deserve it. No, this is inhumane. This is inhumane. We, as a country, have to step up in this because it's inhumane. And you create a person that's, some people that are super angry.
Yes, they are.
And that's what's going on. And as Fred said, a person before your shift can provoke a person to take it out on you because you had nothing to do with it, but they say they all run together, they upset, and they just take it out on the next person. And you had nothing to do with it. Because they have been disrespected and their pride is on the line.
Pride's on the line.
That pride, you don't have anything else. You have no rights, no say, no voice, nothing. Seriously, you have nothing but the air you breathe, and that's it. Somebody controls everything else.
Right? You're absolutely right. We control everything.
Everything.
We control when you come out your cell. We control when you go eat. We control when you go see the nurse. We control when you go to visits. We control your packages. We control everything. We can control everything. And you have the power to make this individual very miserable if you want to. But why do that?
Why do it?
Why? Why? You know, my take on this whole correctional week and correctional officers week, the other thing that I don't like is that, you know, we don't get the due respect that we need as like police officers.
No.
You know, they honor police officers, fallen police officers, like you said earlier. Suicide rate.
Right.
We have the highest suicide rate. We have the highest divorce rate. And we have the shortest life expectancy. The average life of a correctional officer is 57 years old. I'm blessed because I'm in my 60s now.
Wow,
I didn't know what I'm saying. The average life of a correctional officer is 57 years old. Imagine you put in 25, 30 years and you retire and you're 53, 54 and you only live 4 more years.
Wow.
Man, that's deep, bro. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We have guests, as you can see.
Yeah.
However, this has been paramount and key to just the success of this podcast. And the reason I say that it's key and it's paramount because it's getting some things out there that I hope is helping someone to understand the role that the correction officers face. That as family members, as you can see, I'm not just the wife, I'm the sister to one. And it's hard for them after they've been under that hypervigilance all day to just kind of turn it down.
Yes,
you know, when you leave at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just commend them for one, and then to the family, because I was a family member as well. It's us having patience, you know, having that patience and being there for them, you know, because it is stressful. You never know what can happen. So I'm gonna get ready to close this down because of course I don't know, we're disturbing the dogs or however, or they're enjoying this. They may be just enjoying what we're talking about as well. But is there any last bit nuggets that you want to say before we close out for the evening?
I just like to salute those that are doing this job currently and have retired from it. The reason why I salute them because you're not forgotten. You know, don't take it as a low job or whatever people are saying to you because you're a key cog in the wheel. You know, you're a key cog in the wheel because again, your job matters. You know, no matter what's said, you may not get the recognition. You know, you probably will not, but know why you're there. You know why you're working there for your family to make a difference in someone's life. Because I always look at the fact if you wasn't there, how would this person go forward?
That is true.
You see what I'm saying? So I commend anybody that's doing that job. Do not take it there. Do not feel like you're ashamed to tell people what you do.
Right.
But I met those that did feel like that. But don't be ashamed to tell people what you do because you're doing a commendable job. Just getting up, going to work every day is commendable. You know, because it's a lot to go in there knowing your job could change on a dime, and you don't have the amount of personnel to deal with if it changes.
Right.
But yet you still know and go to work every day. So I commend you guys on that.
Yeah, and the nuggets, I piggyback on what Kevin said. I commend all the correction officers, you know, from every level, from the federal level to the city, to the state, to the local county facilities. We have the toughest job in law enforcement, by far. We have the toughest job. And one thing I want to say is family members. When these officers come home, give them their space because they need it.
Yeah.
We need it. You know, we need that time to debrief what we have seen. You know, and to have that time off so we won't get into any altercations with our family members. You know, like I said earlier, we have the highest divorce rate, suicide rate, and we have that PTSD, all the negativity that goes along with that job. We bring it home. So give us some time. One of the things that I found out that helped me was I was a baseball coach. I worked out, got into officiating basketball. Find another avenue. Don't go to the bar.
Yes.
Because that's where you get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I agree with that.
all right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And first, most important thing is, whether you're a believer or non-believer, believe in God.
Yes.
Believe in God. Because there's a lot of people who's incarcerated that can quote scriptures better than preachers.
True. Yes.
And they believe, no matter what their crime was, they believe that, listen, I'm here to repent. Okay? And that's it. You know, I thank God for me having that job, provided for my children, and it provided for my wife and I. And, you know, I don't have no regrets. I have no regrets about I met a lot of people in my life in correction that were very, very good to me.
Right.
And I'm not saying that all supervisors and all officers are bad, right? Because I met a lot of good officers and a lot of good supervisors, and I met a lot of former residents to this day that are very loyal and respectful to me.
Well, again, I thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate you all for just taking this opportunity to just listen to what these gentlemen had to say on today. My prayer is that it has helped somebody, it has inspired, it has encouraged, and it has empowered. So again, to the correction officers, hang in there. Kudos to you, these unsung heroes, and to the family, hang in there as well. So until next time, where your voice will be heard.